Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Hunter, and today I am joined by David Wither of Sofant Technologies, and you're watching the Business Spotlight. David, thank you very much for joining us today. You're speaking to us all the way from Malmo in Sweden as well. So, David, thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, no problem at all. David, can you tell us and tell the audience then, please, a little bit about yourself and your business as well, Sofant Technologies?
Yeah, sure. David Wither, I'm the CEO of Sofant. I joined Sofant in the middle of 2016. Coming up on my eighth year with the company now. Sofant is my third early stage wireless technology business that I've run as CEO, but it's the fourth early stage wireless technology company that I have been involved with. The first one was a US-based semiconductor company, and I set up their European operations in 1999 in the UK. So I've been on this side of the Atlantic since. I originally grew up in the US, studied engineering, and had quite a diverse career before I went off onto the entrepreneurial track. So I've been, as I said, an entrepreneur now in early stage wireless technology since 2004, so nearly 20 years in on this path. Um, and so Sofant Technologies is based in Edinburgh. It was originally spun out of the University of Edinburgh, where its core technology was developed. We're developing a technology which is referred to as RF MEMS, so that's radio frequency micro electromechanical system. So MEMS device, I'm speaking to you over a MEMS microphone right now. That technology is quite mature in industry. If you turn your mobile phone and the screen shifts, that's also what's called an accelerometer. So there are several applications for MEMS in industry, but it's still relatively unexplored in the area of wireless. So there are a couple of companies globally that are doing MEMS for wireless technology, but what attracted to me to Sofant was how Sofant's MEMS, RF MEMS technology, could be applied to make beam-forming antennas. Now, what does that mean? So we're developing a phased array antenna, and a phased array antenna is a type of antenna that you need to point a radio signal, electronically point a radio signal in a specific direction. So the MEMS gives us several significant advantages, but primarily it dramatically reduces power consumption. So these types of antenna systems consume a lot of power, and if they consume a lot of power, they generate a lot of heat. So then you've got to find a way to dissipate that heat through large and heavy heat sinks, or you have to use active cooling systems. And what I mean by that is just fans or some type of air conditioning systems. So that was what originally attracted me to the technology. Before I joined the company, I called a colleague, an ex-colleague of mine, somebody I've known 25 years, who happens to be an expert in this field. His name's Victor Steele. He's working with Sofant today. And it was really during those calls with Vic that he and I realized that Sofant had a technology which would be disruptive for the future of wireless communication. So I joined the business, and he joined not long after that, and we recruited 2 years later, recruited another one of my ex-colleagues, a guy named Andrew Christie's our VP of engineering. So we've been working quite diligently to commercialize this technology since then. It's been a very long journey. I think these types of technologies, especially semiconductor-based technologies, which you have to develop a kind of a process, a manufacturing process from scratch, take a long time.
Yeah.
But it has super big benefits. Last year, we announced a deal with Inmarsat to develop an aircraft-mounted satellite communications antenna. And since we signed that agreement, Inmarsat was acquired by Viasat, which is another large satellite operator. So the combined Inmarsat Viasat entity controls globally more than 50% of the in-flight connectivity market. So if you're getting Wi-Fi on a plane, it's coming over a satellite link. And that satellite, the antenna that sits on the top of the airplane, today is what's called a mechanically steered antenna, but the market is transitioning to phased array antennas. So this deal with Viasat is quite important for us for several reasons. One, as I said, they're market leader, greater than 50% market share globally. But in addition to that, the air in-flight connectivity market, the antennas for that market is the single largest market in terms of value. So that market, as a standalone, is worth in excess of $1 billion, projected to be worth in excess of $1 billion. So for from very humble beginnings as a university spin out, I think Sofant has a real potential to be a major disruptor in this market, and we expect to in the future exploit the same technology beyond satellite connectivity into terrestrial applications. So as we go up in frequency, you need these types of phased array antennas. And as I indicated earlier, conventional technologies consume a lot of power, generate a lot of heat, and our technology approach helps to avoid that. So it's been a long journey so far, but we're really just beginning. We're launching our first product early next year. So it is a very exciting time for the company.
Yeah, it does. It does sound like it. Yeah, very exciting time. And that brings me to my next question then. As a disruptor into the into technology business then, what's the next 5 years? How does that look like then for this technology, but and also for Sofant Technologies then?
Yeah, so today we are 29 people, and so the company's still relatively modest in size, and we're pre-revenue. So in 5 years' time, if you look out in 5 years' time, our expectation is that we'll be generating in excess of $100 million per year in revenue. So we do see very strong growth path in the near foreseeable future for the business, and obviously that type of growth will also drive growth in our business. So we expect our company, within 5 years' time to be close to 100 staff. The majority of those staff are going to be very highly skilled. Most of them with engineering degrees. We have a high number of our current employees have PhDs. So it is really a kind of a deep tech business with which has strong requirements for highly skilled employees. So we do see the next 5 years as something which will bring a lot of growth for the business. I'm sure there'll be many more challenges along that path. But also within that time frame, we expect to, once we've established our market entry strategy, really is built around the satellite communications market, we will start to develop our first millimeter wave. What we call millimeter wave is just a high frequency radio system. We'll start to develop our first systems for terrestrial communications. So that's for kind of next generation wireless networks for terrestrial applications. So we do see this technology, in that 5 year time frame, starting to have a real serious impact on the satellite communications market. I think we'll start to we'll be at that point in time. I think we will becoming a dominant player in the mobile satellite connectivity market, but then we will also start to expand the business for terrestrial comms. So it's going to be a exciting 5 years.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like it. And yeah, you've heard it first right here. Sofant Technologies, they're going to disrupt the industry, and that's a great thing. Love it. We love a disruptor, don't we?
Yeah,
Because they
exactly.
disruptors change businesses, they change the landscape of a certain industry. So without a doubt, so yeah, keep your
Yeah, and I
keep
think
your
I
ears
think
open.
what if you look at historically where the satellite market has come from, right? I mean, we had essentially satellite for commercial applications, right? It originally started for communicating with ships at sea, right? Because you were far away from anything, right? So I think the original satellite communications networks were set up for comms at sea. But then the first real consumer applications were broadcasts, TV broadcast to the house, right? So everybody had a little satellite dish on the side of their house. And then depending on how old you are, you may remember some of the early adopters having really big satellite dishes out in a yard to a point. And over time, the market evolved and you had these small satellites dishes that were kind of bolted to the side of the house. Well, now we see people going to streaming, right? So that's changing. And satellite is the the revenues from that broadcast market are starting to drop, but they now start to see opportunity. Satellite operators start to see opportunity for real growth in communications. So if you want to talk about disruption, we can look at Starlink, right? So within our industry, we have Starlink, which is an Elon Musk business, and he's launched what he's called as a low Earth orbit satellite network. And he's selling a service with a phased array antenna. So again, very similar type of technology that we're developing, and that he's been a real disruptor in the satellite market. So what the satellite market now realizes they have to do is they have to transition to the type of technology that Sofan has developed. So it's actually, although it may seem initially kind of scary that they would disrupt us, actually, Starlink has been a real gift for us because what it's forcing the incumbent satellite network operators to do is realize, wow, we do need this flat panel or phased array antenna technology, and we need to move to this as quickly as possible. So the timing, I think, for our business is also quite good, and I think you need a bit of luck and you need a good market timing to be a real disruptor. And I think the stars appear as though they're aligning for the company.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like it. Um, I'd like to maybe move away a little bit from the industrial and technology side of Sofan and maybe ask a couple of things about running a business, being the CEO of Sofant then. Um, so as a CEO then, how does the again kind of go back to that previous question about, how's the next 5 years look then? Um, what sort of challenges do you sort of face as a CEO then, on top of all this amazing work that you guys are doing? What challenges does that bring as a business owner then, or CEO?
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that is interesting to me about kind of a general management role, right? I mean, because that's essentially CEO is kind of the general manager of the business, right? Is that there is a broad a range of things that you're involved in on a daily basis. So rarely is any one day the same as the next. I mean, so I have quite a varied role. There's a lot of different things that I need to think about. So we talked a bit about the technology and the technology development piece. That's been a long journey that requires very specialist engineers. But as we start to transition from the kind of R&D phase, from the phase, from the research phase into the development phase, there's a lot of implied things that a company needs to do, a company like this, right? And we're in the electronics industry, so we need to start to think about building out our supply chain. So who are going to be the key players that supply us the components and the various bits that we need to build these satellite systems? So 2 years ago, we hired a guy named Gary Morton to run our operations group, and Gary's done a fantastic job helping to start to develop our supplier base. So we have suppliers primarily in Europe, but we do have suppliers in the Far East, and we have local manufacturers in Scotland as well. So we actually have largely European supply chain, but we do have suppliers in Taiwan and in China as well. So that's a big challenge, right? So we need to be able to. There's a bit of a sales job, especially in the early days, you have to do to suppliers because they're very busy. They have to make an investment in us, right? As a new technology, as a new company, they have to kind of believe in us to dedicate their time and effort to supporting us in the development of our technology. So that's a big part of the journey. And now, we go from building, one offs and two offs to 10 offs to hundreds off to thousands off. And so as you start to transition like that, there's a lot of management and time and effort that's required on the supply side.
Mhm.
And as we grow the business, then you also need to think about, okay, are we getting the best deal we can on purchasing, all of these materials? So you used to have to start to think about who are the skills that we bring in. Those are special skills, guys that buy things, right? So we start to think about how does that work, right? So What about our quality? What about the reliability of our products? These products are going to be used on commercial aircraft. They're very high quality standards. So we really need to think about how do we develop that product. So then you start to turn towards the customers, right? Of course, you got to start with a customer. Nothing starts without demand from the market, right? And I think that we're very customer oriented in our business. But I'm just kind of talking you through the transition of how the business evolves and kind of the timing of when you need to bring in the various skill sets to scale a business like this.
Yeah.
So right now, I primarily handle all the sales and business development for the company because we don't really have a product to sell yet. We have prototypes of that product. We're doing testing of that, but this fall we'll start to ship our first prototypes to customers that they'll start testing on their networks. So now we need to start thinking about bringing in people that are more product focused. So we got to develop all the materials that you need, all the manuals that tell you how to use the equipment, how to install the equipment, how to operate the equipment, how does the equipment specified, right? So you've got to bring in people that are more product focused and think about how do we launch this product? What's the material? How do we market the product? How do we raise our profile in the industry so people come to us and inquire about buying that product, right? And then, of course, as you start to move the product in the market, you need to start thinking about how do you sell and distribute that technology, right? So now you need to start to build out the sales and distribution side of the business. So in the industry, historically in the satellite industry, a lot of sales have been done through channel partners, right? So distribution networks. So guys that are what they call value-added manufacturers or value-added resellers. So the people that made the satellite terminals or dishes for your house, the guys that made those didn't install them. They sold that to a local installation company, right? And that installation company came out and installed that technology in your house. So those are the types of relationships we need to start to develop on the customer side. And then, of course, you've got direct customer relationships. So in our case, that'll be the satellite network operators directly. So we need to make sure that we've got people that are selling and servicing to those customers, making sure we're capturing not only their current requirements, but what are their future requirements. And so there's quite a bit that needs to be done. So, you're building out, and as I talk through each one of those kind of functional disciplines, there's a lot of implications about the types of people you recruit that fill those roles, the type of experience they have. Do they need to have specific industry experience in that role, or you can get somebody who's got maybe relevant experience with transferable skills from another industry. And that's really important because when you talk about one of the challenges that we have as a business, especially over the next 5 years, it really is growing the organization with the right type of people. Because ultimately, although I say we're a very customer focused organization, our success is 100% built on through collaboration and teamwork and the employee with the employees, right? So our employees really are really the backbone of the business. They are why we're able to be successful and how we're able to grow and develop as an organization. So I think getting the right people into a company, especially in the early stages, is very, very critical. So there are several aspects, several challenges that we're going to work on over the next 5 years to build out that organization to serve our customers, because that's really what we're here for.
Absolutely, yeah, 100% agree with what you said there. Getting the right people it certainly makes a massive difference in the positive way of helping a business grow, helping your customers, as you said there. And over the last couple of years, I've spoke to a lot of business owners. Getting the right people can be quite a bit of a challenge with recruitment. How have you over the years? You've managed a couple of companies now. How have you overcome that barrier, that challenge, that struggle of getting the right people on board for your businesses then?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to I tend to go back to the well many times, right? So if I've had a good experience with an individual, when I get a new opportunity, I'll give them a call, I'll say, "Hey, where are you available? When would you be available?" So I think, I tend to in the first order, try to find folks that I've worked with before, if they're available. Again, this is what I'm talking about, building a core team, right? I mean, I think, when you get beyond that, you can't do that, obviously. You can't just, take your employee base every time you move and just move them to a new company. It's not possible, but it is probably not a good idea either. But there are a handful of individuals that again, since I've been in the same industry for 20 years, right? 24 years, 25 years, there's a lot of folks I know in this industry. So and there are skill sets that are quite rare in our industry. So those are the people that I'll make calls to. But I think beyond that, what's really important is to have something that's compelling, right? What's the company about? What is the opportunity for an individual to come to your business, to have an impact? And I've worked for very large companies and organizations, but for the last 25 years, I've been working with smaller companies, and I prefer it. But it does take a unique skill set, right? And it does take people who like a challenge. It takes people who want to have an impact. So the kind of people that we're looking for, or we look for, um, are people not necessarily that have the exact skills that we need, but have maybe the right educational background or maybe some stuff that's transferable from another industry. But primarily, what we look for is people that are a good fit for our organization, that they'll fit in with we're like a tribe, right? And you think about a family, right? You don't always get along with your family members, but families function, as a family unit. We function as a, kind of a tribe, right? We have a very diverse set of employees from all over the world, even though we're a small company. But we share a few common traits. And one, we like challenges. Two, we want to have an impact, right? We don't want to hide. In a big corporate, you can hide in the fifth cubicle down the hall and nobody knows what you've done that day, right? I mean, it's very common in these bigger companies or bigger organizations where individuals can kind of hide, right? They're not necessarily really productive. Those are not the kind of people we look for. And those are not the kind of people that thrive in these environments, because they are quite high pressure environments at times. And they're environments where your skill sets are very much highlighted, right? Or if you make a mistake, everybody sees it. And so, that's not for everybody. But fortunately for us, I think certainly, in my experience, if you have a really interesting opportunity, you can create an opportunity for an individual. You find people that are trustworthy, that want to be part of something special, want to have an impact. Then they're the ones that create the foundation on which we build the business. Now, there's a time at which, sometimes you just kind of have to. You can't be so selective, especially in a hyperscale mode. But you need to be as selective as possible, especially in the early days. So it's not easy. It's not easy to find people like that. It is one of our biggest challenges, right? It's one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
so we
sorry.
work our networks, we work with recruiters, we do what we have to do to get the word out about the company and make it as attractive as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and what I was about to say is yeah, a lot of people are experiencing that. But I think what you've given us there is anyone watching this, looking at recruiting, I think you've given us some very good advice there. So thank you very much for that, then, David. Um, I've got just a couple more questions. I was just wondering then, what have you learned, or what's been your biggest learning as a CEO, or working for so many different companies, and being a leader? What's been your biggest learning about yourself then during that time?
Yeah, about myself, that's a good one. I think you have to learn how to kind of take the good with the bad, right? I think when you're in an early stage technology business, it's a roller coaster. So what I've tried to do is kind of objectively look at my behavior, look at how I'm reacting to situations, and then question why are you so happy right now, or why are you so sad? Right? Because the thing about these early stage tech companies is one day you feel like you're on the top of the world. You just had a great conversation with a customer. You feel like you're gonna you're going to really reach all your goals and your ambitions, and then the next day you'll have a call with a supplier and there's a serious quality problem and you realize you're not going to be able to deliver, or and what I've really learned, I guess, is things are really never as bad or as good as they seem, and that it's really important to kind of control your emotional response to the external environment, and just stay focused on what it is you're trying to do, and what are the objectives of the organization. And again, as a leader, it's really important to try to maintain a bit of an even keel, right? Because people look to you to see how the business is going, how are we performing. People really do look to the guy in my seat to say, okay, if the CEO's on a roller coaster and it's really apparent, then that can be off-putting, or can scare people, right? Basically. So yeah, I've learned to try to maintain, at least outwardly, the appearance of kind of an even keel. But it's a constant challenge. I mean, I think we're all human beings, and we all, regardless of what you do for a living or what your role is, we all have the same kind of, I think, mental ups and downs, right? And so anyway, I can say that's probably the primary thing that I've learned over the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing. And my last question for you then, David, again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Really appreciate your time. Last question. I always like to ask this one because I think for anyone who views this, who's looking to go into any sort of business venture for themselves, if they've got a great idea or something, but maybe they're just not pushing themselves to do it. What advice would you give that person, or again, anyone who's just got an idea but is just sitting on the fence and maybe not taking any action? Any advice that you would give to that person who's looking to go into business then for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been many things said about this, right, over time, and I'm not sure that I have a really many unique ideas in this regard. I think you need to just do it, right? That's kind of a Nike. You need to do it. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to fail. You have to do that. I mean, I think, I read something years ago, and it's a famous saying. I forgot, I don't know who said it, but do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain, right? And I think that's the advice I would give is think about yourself in 10 or 15 years from now. How will you feel if you had a great idea and you didn't do anything about it, and you see, somebody else took your idea and ran with it, right? How do you feel about that? And what I would also say is if you do something and you fail, and chances are you will, right? Chances are you will. You will learn much more about yourself and about the world and about life by taking that risk. And I think ultimately, if you want to challenge yourself, if you really want to live life to its fullest, you have to take risks. If you don't take risks, if you don't challenge yourself, you don't grow as an individual. And I think today it's particularly important because we have so many things that are so distracting, and it's so easy just to sit on the couch and swipe, on your Instagram, the infinite scroll on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is. Like, it's so easy to be really distracted, and it's easy to sit on the couch and not take that risk. So I would just really encourage anybody who's got an idea, just go into the fear, take the risk, take the chance, do it. If it doesn't work out, at least you're going to learn. And you'll learn. And then, if you look at the statistics, most people, they usually don't succeed in their first business venture. Most, typically, it may take multiple tries before you ultimately succeed. So again, but you learn a lot about yourself, and it's worth the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. some brilliant pieces of advice there, just do it, learn from mistakes, don't be afraid of failure. There was lots of great things there, David, that you said that, well, I think, again, if anyone's watching this, we'll take that on board and go for it, because that was the first thing you said. Just do it,
Right,
just do it.
right.
Absolutely. So, David, no, thank you very much. That was a great answer. So, thank you so much for that. And thank you very much for this interview. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, David.
Okay, Mark, thank you as well for having me. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much for watching Business Spotlight. I'm Mark Hunter of Action Coach, and we've had David Wither of Sofant Technologies. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time. Bye now.